When you go to school, where did you go to school while you were at the Paul Clark home?
From the Paul Clark home?
Yeah, where did you go to school at? While you were
Well, I went to Washington Junior and Butte High.
Okay. And what would you do for lunch?
Lunch?
Yeah.
Well, I think we packed a lunch. I'm sure we did.
From the home?
Yeah.
Now, would you make your own, or did they make it for you?
I think we made our own. They put everything there to make a lunch with, and you could make what you wanted.
And after school, did you have to check in back at the home?
Well, we had to be there for supper. I don't think there was any coming in and saying, I'm home, or anything like that.
When was the end of the day? What time in other words, you had to be there for supper, and then could you go out after supper?
Yeah, but you probably had to be home by 8 o'clock.
Was it to bed at 8 o'clock?
No. The little kids might have gone to bed at 8 o'clock. I can't remember now. It could have been 9. But high school kids, during school time, we had a study room where we could do our homework, and we got to stay up an hour later because we were doing homework.
Till 10?
Yeah.
Well, was there something about fake invitations for something? I have it written down here, but I don't know what it meant. Fake invitations.
Faking vacations?
Invitations.
Oh, invitations. Oh, yes. We would write invitations to ourselves, like from Mary Jane Brown, and invite us to a party at her house at such a night. And so we'd show it to the matron, and she said, wasn't that nice? And then we could always go. But we always had to be home by midnight.
So one of the other residents wrote the invitation, huh?
Oh, well, yeah.
Now, so if you were invited out, you could stay as late as midnight then, huh? Were you ever late? Were you ever late?
No, I don't think so. Not very, if we were.
Did you ever get caught in a lie by anybody there?
Not actually. When I came back there to live after I started beauty school, my mother thought that I'd be great if I could live at the home again. Why, I'd just been out of there long enough that I just felt too grown up for that business of being in by 9 o'clock and all. Anyhow, a friend of mine and 2 boys came down after I got home one night, and I was in the kitchen getting something to eat, and they came to the back door wanting me to go out with them, and I said, I can't go. Well, so to make it look good, I let them kidnap me. I knew the matron was looking out the window, and they pulled me up the street. I think that was the last day I lived at the home.
Who furnished your clothes?
Well, most of us, our families did. But you know, any of the kids that didn't have families, well, naturally the home did.
Was the home always full?
It was when I was there. You know, for all the widows and divorcees and what have you that were here, 60 beds weren't too many.
Yeah. Was there any other home like this in Butte?
Not to my knowledge.
Did some kids have jobs after school?
Some of the girls did housework that I recall, and maybe, you know, they'd go and dust and sweep and stuff and start supper for some of these people.
Now, could you tell us the reasons why, one of the reasons why you were in the home is because of your mother's occupation?
Yes.
What was her occupation?
She was a bootlegger.
And where was the Bootleg Joint?
Well, it was in the alley off of Galena Street, west of Washington. St. Patrick's School was across the street. The manse or the parsonage or whatever was on Washington. And the church was down the block. It was a very good neighborhood.
What was it, upstairs?
Well, that's where it was. The building was a garage downstairs with an apartment built above it. And it was just sort of a dining room and living room, kitchen and bath. That's all it amounted to.
Where was the bedroom?
The bed was a Murphy bed that pulled out of the wall. So there was no bed until everybody was gone.
And what did the room look like when it was open for business?
Well, counting the dining room, it was just an L-shaped room. In the dining room, she had a big round, old-fashioned round table, and that was the bar.
And everybody sat around?
Everybody sat around the table.
And what lighting was there?
Just ordinary lighting.
Was just a bulb hanging above the table?
Well, sort of a chandelier, I think.
Mm-hmm. Above the table. Mm-hmm. And did your mother serve the booze?
Yeah.
And did they charge by the drink, or?
Yeah.
How did she serve it? In what size glass or what?
Well, regular shot glass, and then she had highball glasses. And in that day, you had a certain glass, and it was a short stem glass that was a highball glass.
Mm-hmm. Was there ice?
Ice?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had to buy ice.
No, but I mean, could you get ice in your drinks?
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm. And do you recall any prices?
Not really, but I think it was pretty standard, 25 cents for a shot, usually. Probably for a highball too, I don't know.
Now, did they play cards at the table, or just talk?
I think they just talked.
Mm-hmm. And there was only that one table, that was the Bootleg Joint, with one table in the dining room. Mm-hmm. And did your mother ever get arrested?
Well, Jerry Murphy used to come see her once in a while. And sometimes he'd call her up and say, "How's my sweetheart?"
Who's this?
Jerry Murphy. Mm-hmm. And she said, "I'm fine, but I'm all buttoned up. I'm out of business." "Oh, you're buttoned up. Well, all right. I won't come see you then." But there were times when he didn't call and he did show up. But some of the policemen at that time were friends of hers, and they'd know ahead of time that she was on schedule, so they'd warn her. And she had little hidey holes for her booze so she could hide it when he came. And these guys that knew her, they'd all look around in obvious places, the oven and the cupboard and where have you, And they couldn't find anything, so. But once in a while she got caught. I think the fine was $50.
And where did she hide the booze?
Behind the baseboards in the closet.
Now, did she have much of a supply?
Well, I think she got her supply in pints because it was easy to hide. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how much, really.
Now, why was Jerry Murphy going with your mother, or what?
Oh, no. He was just Irishman with a lot of BS.
I mean, he wouldn't have a drink there, though, would he?
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. So, in other words, as far as he was concerned, there was no bootleg there.
Well, there had been.
And because of your mother being in that business, you had to live at the Paul Clark home.
Yeah, there was no place for me there.
Mm-hmm. And while you were in the Paul Clark home, did you meet George Mumlow then?
Yes.
Was he your first boyfriend, or?
My first boyfriend, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was a friend of our family's, wasn't he?
What?
He's a friend of our family.
In later years, he was. I guess he worked for your dad, didn't he?
Yeah. And what did you call him?
His name was Milo. I think George was one he adopted. You know, Milo was a Serbian name.
Now, if you would go out at night, would you, how did Mrs. Betters check to see if the kids had been drinking?
Well, I assume that's what it was. She'd allow us to go out to a dance, and of course we had to be in by midnight. And we'd all report in, and then we all kissed her goodnight. And that's how I'm sure it was why she kissed us goodnight. See if there'd been any drinking.
Well, didn't she jump one girl one time?
One girl one time, and she was such a nice lady and so willing to believe us that this girl, when she said, "Nora, have you been drinking?" Nora said, "Oh, no, Mrs. Betters, I've been chewing a couple of different kinds of gum, and the combination made it smell like that." But the lady believed her.
But didn't you say Nora had a metamorphosis that night?
Not that night. This is one of the times when her father had gotten a cabin up at Georgetown Lake, and she and her sister spent the summer there. And Nora had been a very plain girl. She was pretty, but she was just plain, no makeup, nothing. Well, while she was gone that summer, she bought makeup and she curled her hair, and boy, I'll tell you, there was a different girl entirely. And when she came home, well, of course, she went to the dances, and she got sexy even, you know, she flaunted herself and what have you.